Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the acknowledgement. The town of Smithers acknowledges the Gidimt'en clan and the Wet'suwet'en people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. The public is notified that the meeting is being recorded and webcast globally, a notice of which has been placed on the bulletin board outside the council chambers. And council, we have an agenda in front of us. Is someone willing to move approval? And all in favor? Okay, and that carries unanimously. Just before I ask your group to present, just letting you know that Councillor Raven and Councillor Ray are joining us from Terrace, where I believe they were at meetings today. And unfortunately, Mayor Attrell is not able to be with us this evening as she is away on some Tourism Smithers business. So at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to the Smithers Bridging Committee. And I ask, first of all, that the three of you introduce yourself, and then we're ready for you to walk us through your report. Welcome. We'd prefer that you use a mic.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm Nancy Cody. I'm co-chair of the Smithers Bridging Committee.
Good evening. My name is Bertie Markert. I'm the co-chair of the Smithers Bridging Committee. I'm also the district principal for Indigenous Student Services in the Bulkley Valley. And if you walked into our feast hall in Whitsett, you'd also know me as a Stacyanon. I've taken a Stacyanon from my grandmother in 2009. Masai.
Good day. My name is Kevin Tyler. Moved to Smithers 2.5 years ago with my extended family, my wife, my 2 adult sons, and grandkids. Mainly for one of my sons' work up here. And I'm a retired Army officer after 40 years. And I don't do any paid work now, but I do volunteer with the Red Cross, as well as with BC Parks and Bridging now.
Thank you. Okay, who's going to start? Is it going to work with that one mic going back and forth? Okay, good. We will turn the floor over to you.
So first of all, thank you so much for being here tonight with us. We appreciate having the time to have more time to talk about the protocol and maybe perhaps help answer some of the questions you have about it. And we definitely are feeling it's an important topic and required more conversations. So hopefully you'll get the chance to get some of your questions answered, and we can go forward from here. So everybody else told you about themselves, so I might as well say Nancy Cody, that I came to Wet'suwet'en territory 50 years ago with my husband in 1973 from Michigan, and I've lived in Lixilyu territory, like outside of Watauqua, for 47 years. So I started this work as part of as a public health nurse through Northern Health, which I've done for 40 years. I'm still working. I retired 7 years ago, but I've all the committees I've been doing is volunteering since then. So our committee is made up of volunteers, although most of us have professional backgrounds, and we have representation from Indigenous, non-Indigenous, and settler and people of color and settler community, all living here in the Valley. So that's who is on the Bridging Committee. So just to break it down, who are we? So I thought I'd just refer to the booklet, which I've handed out. There's a nice section about who we are. And we have a couple booklets out, but this one is acknowledging Wet'suwet'en territory. And so it does give, and I've just the idea that we were formed in 2002 as an issues forum put on by Social Planning, identified building relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in the Valley as the highest priority issue. So we started up then, and Bertie and I have been co-chairing pretty much since then. And the point was to build relationships and to I'm just going to read our vision. We see a vibrant, harmonious community that is respectful of the Wet'suwet'en territory and the diversity of all nations and cultures that reside here. We appreciate that we are all connected and enrich ourselves by celebrating each other. We have the ability and responsibility to enhance the health of our community. And we do our work through a variety of ways by education, partnership, celebration, arts-based projects, dialogue, and reflection. So we've done things like the Festival of Nations. Hopefully some of you got out for some of them, where hundreds and hundreds of people attended the feasts and learning feasts out in Whitsett. We've done a harmony dialogue where we had 50 Indigenous, 50 non-Indigenous people getting together to talk about building relationships and going forward together. And book clubs and anti-racism work that we've done has to do with Skin, which was storytelling about people's experience of racism in the Valley, and much, much more. And what we're here tonight to talk about is anti-racism work in the form of the Smithers, the response to racism and hate protocol. So that's what we're here to talk about. Also, I would mention that we just hired a new person as a coordinator, and that is Joe Rodriguez, which you probably know. Some of you do anyway. So we're happy to have her on board. And some of our members are here today and right behind us, supporting us. So that's great. So in terms of the protocol itself, we started working on this particular part of the protocol. Actually, we've been working on the protocol for probably a decade and being encouraged to do so through Resilience BC, where we get our funding for many years now, a small amount of funding to do anti-racism work. And before that, it was organizing against racism and hate, but they've always wanted us to have some sort of protocol, just like you would for being prepared for anything that you have to respond to collectively. And that might be challenging, and so that we can work collaboratively and we have a plan in place so that we don't have to make it up as we go, and we can help each other. We can bring the strength of across different agencies and groups to bear on a very complex problem, and might be very helpful. So in 2016, we started working together by bringing people together, but due to COVID, it ended up that we ended up with a subcommittee working on the protocol a little bit more. We had to do work between meetings, obviously, and we drew on the strengths of other protocols such as Abbotsford and Kelowna. And it's a living document. So we've had hundreds of people look at this protocol and give us feedback. We've had meetings with people who are interested in signing on to the protocol and have made suggestions, and we make changes all the time. And we're very keen on getting your concerns and making changes to make sure we're addressing any concerns that you have. And we have currently 7 signatories, and they are listed in the protocol. So you can see them in your protocol. They're listed. But we also have community services as well as joined on. And we have a few other organizations that are smaller that are willing to be supportive, but they don't have this official structure to sign on. But so I did want to draw your attention to the frequently asked questions document, which is a part of what David sent out to all of you. This document was put together following the meeting with the town, where we addressed hopefully addressed successfully your concerns. And so in particular on this document, I'd like to point out that why we're doing the protocol, to provide an opportunity for collaboration, to make our communities safer and more welcoming, to support victims, provide understanding on the nature and extent of discrimination in the Valley, provide community education and educational opportunities. Another one, if you go down, say, to number 4, it's talking about the RCMP and what role they play. So we articulated the differences, and Kevin's going to go into a little bit more detail about that. But people are sometimes afraid to go to the RCMP, and often it doesn't meet the criteria of being a hate crime. So there is a need for another avenue for people to go on. And so we'll be better equipped to support victims and develop preventative measures and community education. And so let's see what else here. We're just very hopeful that you would join with us to make sure that we know that you're doing to support the work you're doing already, as is outlined for things you need to do through the Human Rights Commission, et cetera. And you can report as you wish. There's nothing that's mandatory. You could report once a year, you could report twice a year, and you're going to be following your own confidentiality rules and your own policies. The chamber has already signed on, as I'm sure you're familiar. So businesses are engaged already. And I think the most important thing is that we would bring to bear a collaborative approach. We could help out if there's an incident. We could come together, we could brainstorm, and we could work better to make a more inclusive and safer community. So that's my part in the talk, and I'd like to turn it over to Birdie to say a few words, and then we'll go to Kevin, who's the lead of our working committee on the protocol.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank Nancy for walking us through the history of the work that we've done through the Bridging Committee and the passion that we bring to the table with regard to ensuring that our community has resources and is safe out there. I'm speaking here as an Indigenous woman who lives in this community. And I have to say that as an Indigenous woman who's lived in this community, I don't necessarily always feel safe. Even as someone with some power, someone with some skill and some means, I don't necessarily feel like I always have access to the resources that everybody else has access to. So if I feel that way, if I feel limited in any way, how do the folks who don't necessarily have the resources to their fingertips or the ability to go and report challenges that they've experienced in any place that they go and get support? I really feel like the work that we have done in the past with regard to supporting anti-racism or challenges that have been reported to us and we've helped unfurl, I feel that we have only stepped up to the table to ensure that the person who's experienced the wrong has the resources and the means to be able to be whole. The other is that we also provide education to ensure that folks understand the playing field and what it is that people of color experience in this community. I grew up here. I know what kind of a divided community we live in. And I just want to ensure that folks who look like me are able to access resources and be able to access the resources that everybody else freely accesses. And I know that through my family's experiences, folks who have reported to us, we want to ensure that anybody who receives healthcare gets healthcare at the same level as anyone else. And sometimes those communications or interactions are challenged, and we want to make sure that everybody has the same level access to resources without any challenge. And that is our purpose. I'm sure that you all are aware of Mr. Bill Goodacre. This is the work that Bill Goodacre brought to the table with us and really wanted this to be something way before his time was done. He really wanted this protocol released. And I felt at that time that it wasn't quite done yet, that we needed to do a little bit more work before we released it to the public. And so this was something that he was very passionate about. I too am very passionate about, and I feel like there have been a lot of hands, a lot of people who have helped to develop this protocol. And it would just be great to see that our community embraces it as well. I don't feel that this protocol is something that calls out people. I feel it's something that calls in people. Let's have a conversation. Let's work together. Let's build a relationship so that we can support whatever wrong has happened in the community. Ms. Sai.
I'd like to reinforce our thanks to Mayor Attrell, who's not here, as well as all the councillors, for your service to the community and your leadership. In our decision to relocate to Smithers, my larger family, we did look at Terrace. In the end, we settled on Smithers fairly quickly because of it being not just the climate, but compared to Terrace, but also a very vibrant community compared to most communities of this size. We've visited friends here over the years prior to moving here. We found it a very vibrant place and a good place to spend that we wanted to move for the rest part of our life. We moved here during the pandemic, and had known before we moved here of the existence of a Proud Boys chapter in Houston, and which gave me a little cause for concern. Of course, it had closed because that became a listed terrorist entity. But that's an indicator that, oh, okay, we've got some of those kind of people in our community. There's some everywhere, but they usually lay low. But during the pandemic, they were a little more open. And there was several disturbing experiences I had after moving here. One was I was riding my bike on the street right here behind the councillors sitting at the head, and in the parking lot of the library, there was a gathering of people for some type of protest, but two of the members, felt weird to me. So I stopped and looked at it, and there was two members in this gathering wearing the skeleton face mask with the Cheshire grin. And if you don't know the significance of this mask, it has become, in the last 3 years, a symbol for white supremacists. It's a form of attire amongst them. So that really shook me up, that stopping there and seeing that right here in our community. And so these, along with the other things little things I'd seen and didn't feel comfortable with, I sought out if online, what organizations are working for to counter hate in our community. And that's when I ended up connecting with Bridging. And I guess the timing was right where they wanted to reinvigorate the protocol. So I started work. My volunteering has been on that. About a year ago, can't remember the exact date, I attended the council meeting here. It was just an open council meeting. And I spoke for 3 minutes on the protocol. Shortly after me, another citizen spoke against the protocol. The council was basically split and decided to push it to this meeting. I think that was a good decision at the time, because that format didn't really give a chance to explain things, and it was more adversarial. Some of the things that came up of concern during that meeting were that potentially the reporting tool could be used to shame people, was one. Another was that the staff time involved potentially to implement the protocol was quite a big concern of a couple of the members and staff. So I'd like to actually address those concerns. They've sat with me since then. So the first one of these is the reporting tool and potential hazards with it. In the reporting tool, the preamble to it, it tells anybody who might want to use it that we only take anonymized information. It's our intent that information we do get stays that way. So there is a potential risk, and it's based on, and mitigating that risk is based on the trust in Bridging to properly administer. If we did get somebody who filled it in online, it's available online through a jot form, as well as you could fill out a paper copy. Somebody might still put personal identifying information in there. So it's really up to us to delete that, take that out of there, and not retain it anywhere and keep it anonymized. And our signatory organizations, we've had this discussion with them. The similar question has come up. Basically, so it comes down to them trusting us to be effectively managing any information we do get. And they've shown us that trust by signing on. Maintaining a civil society takes more than just enforcing laws. We do have hate crime legislation in Canada. but it's insufficient to counter hate and to build a civil society. If you do a quick online search for Statistics Canada and hate, you'll see that what gets reported to police. And so we had from about 5 years ago, 1,800 cases all across Canada, all police departments, to 3,600 last year. So it has doubled basically. Some of that may be just awareness of the reporting tool and the legislation increase, but anecdotally, it's a lot of support that it has increased, with all the other issues that are going on in society being more polarized and whatnot. But, that to this particular ARPA protocol and what we're talking about here, more germane than whether statistics have increased is the fact that hate crime is only the tip of an iceberg for bad, hateful things in our society. And most hate crimes go unreported. Statistics Canada says that in their own note, and studies by federal government have shown that they believe that there's only maybe 5–10% that gets reported. During the development of our protocol, I've met 3 times, including twice with one of our other members, with the RCMP detachments sergeant here, Staff Sergeant Mark Smale. And him and I have discussed this in detail. He does not see our reporting tool as in any way duplicating what the RCMP are doing. That was one of the concerns of one councillor, with maybe that we're duplicating existing reporting procedures. Yeah. Our tool is not in any way meant to replace existing things. It's meant to augment and give an opportunity for people who may have experienced bad things and they want to at least get that past that. So at the same time, we hope that signatory organizations will become ambassadors to the protocol and make the public aware that it's available as a tool separate from existing other avenues. Lastly, regarding the workload increase to staff, yes, signing on would involve some staff time, of course, to review our documents. You've already spent some staff time. Thank you very much. And then possibly to adjust your own policies and or training. However, maybe such work is already or could become incorporated into existing requirements that council has already given the staff to meet either legislative or intended goals of the council. So, and rather than duplication, any training offered by bridging that we've been coordinating for our signatories, it might help fill some of your training needs that you've already identified. Really, it's going to be up for yourselves to judge the cost benefit to signing on. The town becoming a signatory would be a further signal that other key leaders in the community are supportive of this vision of a safer and more secure and fair community, and doing things to actually move us that way. And being supportive of those who are on the receiving end of hate in the community, and not in any way turning a blind eye to those who might be committing it. Whatever your decision is after this meeting, once you confer amongst yourselves, it's my heartfelt hope that the main thing that you take away from talking with us is that you do not see our work as a threat in any way to our community, but a sincere effort to make our community a safer, more secure, and fair and cohesive place for everybody, including the most vulnerable. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy and Bertie and Kevin, for that presentation. We're now going to open the floor to comments or questions, including the floor will be open, of course, to Councillor Ray and Councillor Raven as well. So who wants to start us off? Councillor Raven.
So just want to quick mention that Counselor and I are calling from the Education Kids List and Kids Museum. We are in a hotel, right? So that is.
Councillor Raven,
I
you're
just wanted to
coming
say
through
thank you so
very,
much to the Budget Committee for thanking. Okay, does that help?
yeah, Councillor Raven, you came through very garbled there. So I think it would be good if you just started over again. You sounded a lot clearer now.
Okay, perfect. I figured the camera might help. Sorry, so Counselor Ray and I are calling in from the traditional territory of the kids curriculum. Hobbies, get noisy, apologies. I want to encourage you to the meeting committee for coming and bringing forward views and their thoughts. And I really do like the previous meeting, this one again. I support I think that you have to advocate yourself is.
Councillor Raven, at first you were coming through clearer and now we're back to having a very hard time understanding you. I wonder if there's a poor internet connection on your end. Someone was suggesting that it might be good for you to sign out and then sign back in again and see if that makes a difference.
I'm going to try to go on my phone and use my data.
Sounds good. Okay, Councillor Ray, hopefully your internet connection is better.
I'm sitting right across from Councillor Raven, so can you hear me?
Yes, you're clear.
Oh, okay. That's kind of weird. Anyways, so I was one of the councillors that had concerns, and I'm glad that we decided to have some time to hear from the committee. I do have a couple of concerns that remain still, and that's a couple of times in the protocol, you refer to holding those people who are perpetrating racism responsible and accountable. And my concern, along with the example that's given of somebody being followed around in a retail place, gives me a little bit of pause, because I work in retail and sometimes we follow people because we think they may be stealing. And of course, some people that we suspect are non-Indigenous, some are Indigenous, some are, and so my concern is that somebody that's just trying to do their job is going to end up being a target. Can you maybe sorry, I see that we're getting the background here, and I apologize for that. But I was just wondering if somebody on the committee could comment on how that accountability piece would be taken care of.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Ray. I have a feeling that being followed around in a store as a shopper just because of the skin color is what we're speaking to. You're talking about someone who's going to be possibly committing an offense. What we're speaking to is the fact that someone who walks into a store is followed by staff, not because someone's worried that they're going to take something off of the shelves. It's because of their skin color. And so what we would hope would happen with something like that, if it's reported to through the bridging committee is that we're going to move towards some type of resolution and work together and understanding and maybe education around that. Not necessarily calling out that person, but it's a bit of a gray area there because we have folks who work in our community to do a job. I understand that. But we had an example a few years back with an elder who was followed in a store and the RCMP was called. And it was a really unfortunate situation that occurred. But what we were able to do was to speak with the elder, get her family involved and support the elder and have her be supported in the way that she could move forward. She probably didn't trust the RCMP again, but she was able to move forward. And we did have a committee of the whole with the RCMP as well at that time, because that was a very challenging situation.
Councillor Ray, anything further?
Yeah, I could just
I-
say as well, Councillor Ray, or you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. It's not at all our intent to criticize, put down people who are doing things. It's more the idea of raising awareness and to listen well to those people as well and to hear their stories. It's to like a big part of the work we do is just hearing people's stories of their experience. And in so doing, most of them are just relieved that it's validated and that they're heard, that it's been an experience for them. You know, it's very hard to judge what exactly happened. And sometimes we have gotten involved where we could, I mean, in all truth, I can say that we were able to resolve it because the person, it wasn't a racist incident, it was a misunderstanding. And everyone left feeling good about it. You know, sometimes people do get triggered because it's of the history and the genocide and ongoing the historical racism and systemic racism that's ongoing. It's very hard to see when you're swimming in a water that's been established. It's almost impossible to see when you're in it. So it's not to be judgmental and critical so much as to raise awareness and to help people to say something, perhaps. Support, like if there's something that's very violent and there need to be charges brought and that sort of thing, it's more turned over to the RCMP. What we're trying to do is just commit to addressing and understanding better. And you're all doing it anyway. It's not anything that's radical. You're being asked to do this by everyone. We want to make a more just society. We understand historical genocide and racism, and we learned things that were wrong, and we're making it right by learning more and by helping each other. So I hear what you're saying, but it's the furthest thing from what we're trying to do. We're trying to create change. We have a vision of a place where everyone is respected and belongs and has a place. And we're walking in that direction. And I'm sure you all have the same vision. Is how do we create systemic change unless we can work together in a very, very challenging issue? Because most people, an awful lot of people don't even see it. They're not aware. So it's more like, I mean, I've been involved in this work for so long and I'm still a little apprehensive about how to approach people, but through bystander training and by learning more, first of all, we can support people in telling their stories, but we can also maybe approach people and say, well, you know, could I help you? You know, could I help you to see this? How could we work together? And sometimes it's systemically. Perhaps we could work with businesses well, that's what the Safe Harbor program was, to work with businesses and provide education to employees. So they come at it a little bit differently. So it's definitely not to call people out. And if they are, then we would only use existing systems to do that. You know, by making people aware. Is this something you'd like to do? You'd be surprised the number of people that they don't really want to do anything. They just want to be heard and validated. And they feel so much better. Yep.
Okay,
Go ahead, sorry.
Councillor Ray.
Yeah, sorry. So just through the sheer number of interactions that you have in retail, I have had a few misunderstandings in my career, and I just wanted to make sure. Fortunately, by talking about it, we were able to resolve them. But it's just I know misunderstandings happen, and while I have the floor, I really do want to say I support the work of supporting victims. Um, since it was originally brought to us, I think had a little bit of a wake up slap in the face by some things that happen in our council chambers. So can definitely support that, and I think we all want a community where nobody needs to feel unsafe or unwelcome. So I just wanted to make sure I'm raising concerns. I'm not concerned about supporting victims and trying to end racism.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Raven, let's give it a second try here.
I say third time's the charm, apparently, knock on wood. So as I said in the previous meeting, I fully support signing on to this racism protocol, because just to build on what Nancy was talking about, I really think that the opportunity for training for staff and also the awareness that that brings. So it's something that, you know, it's called unconscious bias for a reason, because it is unconscious till you become aware of it, and then you see it, and the ripple effect of that will be like, okay, you take the training at work, but then it could spill over into your personal life. You're in an interaction with family members. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay, hey, maybe that's not the best way to approach this, or why would you, say it like that? So I think this is one of those things that can really create a wonderful platform for learning, and it can grow. Also with that, for victims to also have a voice, if you're always advocating for yourself, it is so tiring to be able to have someone else that can go, hey, you know what, I saw that too, and then you don't feel crazy, or like, okay, am I making this personal? And where, yeah, you can have that validation where it's like, okay, we see this, let's work together through it. And you don't feel alone. And the worst thing to do is to feel alone in your community. So thank you so much to the Bridging Committee. I appreciate the time and the work. And I do understand that this will take some staff time, but I also think that this is something that I would say is our HR is already working on some level, is some racism awareness training. Like that, this isn't something too out there either. Like this is something that I think is doable and attainable. It might not be done tomorrow, but I think it's something that we could do.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Your response from the three of you, or that was just received for information?
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair Bukema, and to the committee for coming today. I'm really passionate just about supporting you and what you're asking. I just have a couple questions for clarity. But I really do appreciate the work that you do. I remember during COVID, and then when we were asked, or when we were during the election campaign, just the amount of hate within our community, I was a bit taken aback by that. And that was actually one of the reasons why I ended up running, just because to see that division amongst ourselves was actually quite scary. I think it was just sort of the next level. So you're one of the only organizations that I've spoken to in the last year and a half that's really championing this work. So I support what's being asked, but I just have some specific questions about what it means to be a signatory, because I don't take that lightly. So if we're going to sign on to something, I want to make sure that we're committed to fulfilling those commitments. So for example, under the roles of protocol signatories, where it says follow through on their sort of the signatories' commitments within the protocol declaration, my question is specific to outside of. So the declaration is just a declaration. I'm looking for what are those specific commitments. So as an example, when I look to the last bullet where it says, participate in an annual evaluation meeting, my question is, what are we evaluating ourselves against? So as an example, if I signed on to a signatory to any of the other committees that I'm appointed to, there's specific actions that I might be accountable to, potentially maybe as a liaison, that then we do annual workshops where we say, these are the things that we said we were going to achieve. This isn't working well. I love that you talked about education, because I think that's a huge component when I think about this work. As an example, is there specific things that you want to see us supporting you in? And I think that would help to support maybe some of the questions we'd had before around resource capacity. Because again, that's something that we talk about all the time, just to talk about what competing priorities do we have. But if we have better insights into what those specific objectives are, then we can debate, yeah, just that. Thank you.
The expectations of signatories are first to support individuals who are reporting within their organization of on the receiving end of racism or hate. Most organizations already are obviously doing that. And second is to be open to and participate when opportune in training towards preventing and dealing with racism or hate in our community. I'll give a bit more on that in a minute, and what we actually have planned. And what was the part of your question about?
Evaluation, like the idea.
Oh, yes. So an annual meeting. And so that part in the protocol, it's based on our experience talking to the Kelowna, where there's a similar protocol. It's signed and in place, and they have a reporting history, as I mentioned a year ago here, maybe you remember, where they're getting about 100 reports a year. It's a community of 200,000. And so they put together a little breakdown of that, very similar to the Statistics Canada breakdown you'll see on their website about hate crimes. Within Kelowna, those 100 or so reports per year, they give a breakdown of how many might be against persons of color, how many might be against the LGBT community, et cetera, where reports are. A lot of theirs are at public transit stops, in stores and standing in line. Comments like, why didn't you go back to your where you came from, or things like that. That's the majority of the reports, that the two biggest categories you see in there. So our idea is, if we do actually get any reports, we could have if you extrapolate our community sizes, we probably won't get more than 10 reports a year. But we can, at the annual meeting, the idea is to, if we do have that kind of data, to just discuss it and present it. The main thing at the meeting, and this is since the signing last June, I've gone back and talked to the signatory agencies, NGOs mainly, and what they want to get out of it, and this is kind of developing, it's what we'll have at that annual meeting, is they're looking forward to the chance to talk to the other organizations in the room, to network, compare notes, and so that'll be one of the main purposes of the annual get together.
I think you do, it's a living document. So you're going to evaluate what worked, what didn't, and suggested changes, concerns, what they need more education, what area. So when we've had meetings before with with protocol signers and people that are interested, it's a very, yes, it's structured, but it's also very alive. This is not an easy topic. And so we definitely want to learn together and collaborate. So maybe, even if there's a need, we might brainstorm how can we address that need. So in terms of attending meetings, I think it would just be that. It might be, we give you lunch, you're there for a couple hours. We have an agenda. We're going to be telling you about our data and what we've learned. We want feedback. And so I don't really think it would require much prep, and we want to treat you well. We want to provide you with food, and it's been very worthwhile just to get together and to talk about it and collaborate and to see that we're not alone. So when we had the incident that we talked about the shoplifting up, you know, the fact that we could pull people together, the mayor actually called me. He was in Vancouver and said, you know, you need to do something here. Like this has happened. And so we did, you know, and you know, then you're not all on your own. What if something happens to the building and you feel in isolation? You could call a meeting then too, but we could also evaluate what worked. How supportive were we? What else did you need? What are we missing? What are the gaps? So it's an ongoing learning process to create structural societal change with a vision, you know, and we know nothing's written in stone, but I don't think it's going to require much time. It's more like, do you guys buy into the idea, and can we support you with education and maybe a meeting, really? And you can report or not, but if we can get some reports, use the short form. Don't put anything in there that's confidential. Say these are the reports we got, this is what they look like, and then at least we know something. So you can see very clearly from what Kevin said how helpful that can be. You know, maybe you put things up at, you know, at places where people are waiting or where they're getting the bus. I mean, you can actually create strategies for prevention, putting up posters, you know, getting people where they're at. So boy, that's exciting to me. So I really, the time, I know you have to be thoughtful about that, but it's signing on is more of an indication of your care and that you buy into the idea of learning and growing and building a stronger and safer community where everyone's welcome. Thank you. I don't know anybody.
Absolutely, it does. Thank you so much. And so just to be clear too, it's not just about the time. I'm also thinking about the more specific we can be. Then I think about future funding opportunities where we can write grants and get funding, but we have to be really prescriptive about what it is that we're asking for, because we do that with a lot of other asks like this as well too. So being proactive and saying, you're the experts. What are the things that you've seen over the past number of years and this important work that you're doing? And how can we help to support you? Outside of obviously being a signatory, but again, fulfilling those commitments. So is it hosting an annual workshop, the posters that you're talking about, things like that, just getting that level of specificity. Yeah, it would just be great to know, because even one of the recommendations that you have around the anti-racism training, I think that's incredible. I know that I could use that. And I'm sure that obviously there are conversations we need to have around the table, but that everybody in the community could use that. So yeah, very supportive. And yeah, just Nikali, thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that what you're pointing out is critical. You bring an expertise to the table. You know, we're all individuals with different areas of expertise. So mentioning funding, we're going to be asking for agenda items. We're going to be asking for ideas. We're going to be asking for concerns. We're going to be listening to your concerns and taking them to heart and making changes. So we value that this is a living document. And I think that's a great idea about funding. Yeah, so we need everybody to come on board to bring the strength to bear, because there's nothing we can't do as a community if we put our mind to it, if we commit to it and work collaboratively, because no one person has the answer. And we just all agree we would like to create a more welcoming and inclusive and community. I believe that's true.
Anything further, Councillor Patterson? Okay, I'll go next. Yeah, thanks for your presentation and for your answers so far. I was one of the councillors who expressed some reservations the first time you were here. I kind of agree with Councillor Ray. I very much applaud how you're trying to be there for victims. One of my concerns still very much is in the forefront of my mind. So on the report we have in front of us on page 20 and 21, there are all these isms listed, and also hatred and racism, lots of isms, phobias, etc. Okay, and then hate crimes. So let's say someone accuses me of one of these isms or phobias, or of just downright hatred. Okay, if they report me to the police, I feel like I have opportunity to defend myself in court, to say, hey, wait a minute. If I get taken to the Human Rights Commission, I feel like I have opportunity to defend myself. But I feel like when somebody fills out a form saying I've done something, I have no opportunity to prove my innocence. I feel like I'm automatically guilty without any recourse. And that still is my biggest concern when I read through the protocol. And I think until someone assures me that that is not a reality, I'd have a hard time supporting the protocol. And that's what I expressed last time around too, because I see in my culture lots of times where people get accused of something that they're not necessarily guilty of. And that could happen to me. And that makes me very uncomfortable.
I can certainly appreciate how you feel with regard to feeling that you have to be in a position of defending yourself. I know that the work that we've done in the past, we have worked to support to try and create a resolution between the person who felt there was a wrong done to them and the person who possibly could have done the wrong. Our goal is to create a resolution so that both people can walk away from each other being whole. It's quite interesting because I also come from the culture that is somewhat invisible in this community. And I feel like I represent the folks who don't necessarily have a voice. And we've worked with those folks who we've tried to support when they felt like something happened to them that they knew was not correct, but they still didn't feel like they had the wherewithal to be able to challenge whoever mistreated them. So we have to try and create a balance here. And how do we create that balance when we think about the level playing field in our community, right? And I'm really trying to respond to your comment and your concern to really truly understand that we're not here to crucify anyone. We're here to support and ensure that we create a resolution between two parties. If someone chooses to take that someplace else, I mean, we can't control that, but we are not in a position of crucifying anyone. We are in the business of supporting and ensuring that there's some sort of resolution. That's the best way I can answer that. I understand that. I feel that I've lived in this community for over 20 years. And it's interesting how I feel about living in this community because I was born and raised in Woodset. That's where my community is. I feel that when I'm in my community in Woodset, I'm supported. I'm not singled out. And living in this community, I feel less supported, feel a little bit more singled out. And I speak to many people from many walks of life who feel somewhat similar to me. And the whole point of creating a protocol like this is to ensure that the folks who don't necessarily feel who have access can have access and are supported in their resolution.
Thanks for that response.
Yeah, we appreciate your honesty. And definitely, as Bertie said, it's not our intention at all. And we want things to be confidential, and they need to be, they have to be, and that's part of the evaluation. You know, if there are breaches, most of us are professionals, actually. You know, we understand confidentiality and the importance of it. Because the only avenues that would be taken legally would be the ones you've mentioned. Like, and it wouldn't be by us, it would be by the individual. And the only thing we would do is maybe turn them in that direction if they're interested. So we have no power. We have no, and I know what you're saying because, you know, someone can say so-and-so did this and that, and then suddenly the word gets around and suddenly people are prejudiced against that person. And that's so unfortunate. We would fight against anything like that. It's cruel. It's what societies do because they're not healthy. You know, healthy societies don't do that, but we have that happen, right? About people that are misaccused of whatever it is. So that's not our intention at all. And anything legal or any consequence is going to come from that which exists. So the people we've worked with in the past, see, first of all, there's the idea of you could start signing on. So all that has to do with internal work. You know, what do you see in your day to day? You know, what do you encounter? You know, what are you doing? We're not interfering in what you're doing at all. You're following your own policies. If people come to us in the past, I can think of a couple situations where it took a couple years, but I think one person did go to a licensing body, say, for example, and filed an official complaint. You know, we might just point them in that direction, say, here are some opportunities for you, but it was something pre-existing. And then another where there was a legal battle that we weren't really involved in at all. Like, we just support them. We give them some information, the same information that's in the protocol. Like, where can people go? How can they be supported? Do they need mental health assistance? You've got some ideas of where you could refer them to. So we aren't doing any of that at all. Like, so I hope that's somewhat reassuring, but you just keep bringing it up. Your concern, we'll listen, make suggested changes that would make you feel better.
Yeah, and I mean, I say those things gently and carefully, right? I mean, that's just my concern. And when you say we very much will be confidential, like that is not one of my fears about you in any way, shape, or form, that you'll honor confidentiality. I just think if someone thinks I've wronged them, it's easy to fill out a form, right? And I guess that's the part that still makes me a little nervous, right? It's easy to fill out a form and you fill out a form, you hand it in, and now I'm guilty, right? And so that's the part that just leaves me on edge. And yeah, I struggle with that a lot. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Go ahead.
The administration of any reports we get. Yep. Well, first of all, to back up. So the issue of confidentiality and privacy came up during our working groups with the other organizations. And based on that input during the development, that's why we put a lengthy preamble to the report form explaining that we don't want personal identifying information. We don't want names, addresses, or other information that could draw us to somebody. In the off chance that some individual just decided to make a report with identifying information, it's up to us to, as soon as we get the report, to remove that information. And so it's our management. Right now, I'm actually the one receiving any reports and managing them. But now that we've hired a coordinator, she should take that on. And there's a very strict security system with the online app that we use, the JotForm. But yes, there's a possibility that somebody might decide to misuse the protocol, but it's up to us managing it to immediately say that, no, this is either something we need to blast to the RCMP, but whether we do that or not, or recommend the person go to the RCMP. But as far as us retaining any information, it should go nowhere. It should be deleted immediately is how I plan to manage it, and we'll be discussing with our new cohort. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leonard.
Could I just have one more quick response, is that it isn't easy to fill out the form. And as a matter of fact, we haven't gotten any reports yet. It's very challenging. It's about trust, building relationships. And usually if we hear something, it's through somebody like the mayor or a councillor or someone that hears something and they make the referral to us. So, and it takes a lot it takes a lot to even to get them to people to trust to share anything. But once they see that it's about us listening and validating their experience, and we aren't going to judge them either. So let's say they're saying, so and so did this to me, and this is how I feel. We're going, wow, that's really tough. You know, it doesn't mean we think the person they're talking about did the wrong thing, but just helping the energy to come down and helping them to think about, well, where do you want to go from here? We aren't going to do anything that they don't want to do. And most of the time they don't want to do anything.
Well, and that's why I said too, when I started my comments, like I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Ray. Like I very much appreciate how you want to be there for victims. I applaud that by all means. Yeah.
And let's continue to work on it so that you feel safe to help us in moving forward, because we don't want to be stymied by it or give up. Like, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I believe Councillor Leonard was next.
I also just want to thank you for being here. Your passion clearly shows for this committee and the project. I have one more pragmatic question, and you might have already put it in the presentation, but I have missed it. I'm curious about the funding. Where do you get your funding from, and just how that works? And then I have a little comment after that.
Yeah, we get $7,000 a year from Resilience BC, but $1,000 goes for insurance. So we have limited funding, but we are committed. I mean, we've been going for 23 years. What is it? 2002. So I guess only 22, but and if, you know, there's opportunity for more funding, like Genevieve said, it's just, we're running on passion and a vision. It's not a moneymaker. So, but we believe in what we're doing and we're dedicated to it. Like, we're not going to give up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's admirable, and you have given me more to think about as well in terms of support. But I will just make one sort of general comment. I'm a business owner in town, and I don't mean this to be taken negatively or the wrong way, but we are regulated by provincial and federal governments through WorkSafe. We have abuse policies, we have violence policies, we have bullying policies. We do have to address issues that come up in our business. And so it's almost like, again, you know, I want you to take this the wrong way, but it's almost like it's just another administrative thing. And that's where my mind goes. And like, I don't mean to belittle what you're doing. But that, like, in realistic terms, it's sort of, from a business point, it's like we're doing it already. And you have said it in your presentation that it is being done in organizations already. So it's just one more level of.
I appreciate you saying that, and we acknowledge that you're doing it. So it's more the idea of you're being safe in your home, and you're checking smoke alarms, and you've got fire extinguishers, and you practice at home, but still you have a community response if there's an incident that's community-based, and you provide education. It's like you're preparing. It's very clear that the majority of people are not reporting and that the incidents are increasing. Would you rather be caught off guard by an incident that suddenly you're in the paper about Smithers having this incident, and how did you respond to it, and or would you rather be prepared? Would you rather bring to bear 10, 11 organizations, professional organizations, on the issue so that we can collaborate and work on it? Or would you rather work in isolation? You know, it's yes, of course you're doing it, and we want to help and support what you're doing, but it's the idea that it's working together and walking together. And, you know, I think we should be recognizing people more too. A lot of positive, and appreciating people, what they're doing, you know, acknowledging what people are doing. So that could be part of it, is being very positive. I don't know if that helps, but
I'd just like to add, I fully acknowledge the pressures any business is under with, just dealing with regulatory, let alone anything that's on top of that. The organizations that have signed on, the biggest and repeating thing that they've told me is what they'd like to get out of it is the ability to, they're all moving forward on these issues just as businesses are, but the ability to every once in a while meet with the others and exchange on, best practices or how to move forward on it.
That's it, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair Bukema. I just had a few comments. I appreciate the report, and I don't think there's any place for racism or any sort of discrimination in the world. I work for a company that takes it very seriously, and we do a lot of training, and I'm on the hiring committee, and we take that stuff very seriously about having diverse workplace, and DE&I is a big buzz phrase now, and I think it's very important that we represent our community and our workforce. Don't think I was at the original meeting way back when. I might have been out of town. I don't remember being at it. And then of course you read it and then you have ideas in your head about what it's all about. And then you look at social media today in our little world of Smithers and you see this accusation or that accusation or what I appreciate about this is that this might be an avenue to weed that stuff out. I hope people would take it a legitimate complaints and go this route rather than voicing it out on social media where Councillor Bukema's concerns, in the school of public opinion, you're going to be blacklisted or whatever because maybe someone misconstrued something you said or you did. And I hate that. Actually, sorry, that's not the right word maybe, but but it's, yeah, I don't approach, and I agree with, like we don't want to push people out. We want to pull them in and not help them understand like, hey, well, maybe you said something that this isn't really appropriate. How do we go around and fix this, right? And I mean, I've said things in the past that I like, oh, I didn't realize it was not appropriate. And I see it all the time on social media where people say things like, oh, man, you shouldn't have said that. It's not helping. And I'll go about correcting people in my circle, not in a negative way or a harsh way, but I'll say, well, what about this perspective or that perspective? And it seems to help a lot better than saying, well, you're a racist and you're going that route. I think people just lack sometimes understanding. I know there's terrible racist groups out there, like the one you talked about earlier. They have, they're on a list, and I don't think we need those groups in our society, but I think people do have misunderstandings from time to time where they might say or maybe label a people group or a skin color or a gender or misgender someone or whatever. That is very, we're really sensitive to all these things right now. So it does seem clunky, like Councillor Leonard said, we're doing this in a lot of workplaces already. But I think in the general public, it seems like the only outlet people have is social media, which is a terrible, terrible, terrible place to do it. So I hope just people would consider going this route, and I hope that you get more exposure with this. And I mean, you've been around since 2002, but I haven't heard a lot about it only since I've been on council. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think there's some concerns, but I think those are outweighed by the benefits of it.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. Anyone else from council? Councillor Patterson.
Just a question for you, Chair Bukema. If I have comments specific to the staff report, does that come after?
Any last words from the Bridging Committee?
well, I've been very happy to come tonight and to hear each person speak and bring legitimate concerns, and also such expertise and wisdom. And this is what we're wanting. It's just an avenue to come together and to assist the change in moving forward together. So I really am hopeful that you'll join us, and you can always drop out if you want, but what I mean is give it a try. Help make us better, make it better. Like we listen to people, and we want we would really appreciate if you joined us. Thank you so much.
Anyway, then I want to just thank the three of you for being here and the three who are in the gallery as supporters. Very much we appreciate your passion, your enthusiasm, and it's pretty obvious how strong your desire is that Smithers be the best place it could possibly be, and that's much appreciated. So thank you for coming, and we wish you a good evening. We're almost at the tail end of our meeting. We just have to deal with one staff report yet relating to this. Okay, thank you. There's a table in the front lobby. Feel free to put some there. Yeah. Yeah. Good night. Thank you. So council, we have a recommendation in front of us that we receive the report that we have in front of us this evening. It is not a recommendation to adopt. It is a recommendation to receive, which means at a later council meeting, we would have opportunity to discuss it further. And I would hate to make a decision without Mayor Attrell being part of the decision making as well. So is there someone willing to move the recommendation, Councillor Leonard? And I don't want to cut the conversation short if anyone wants to still have any discussion relating to it, but otherwise we would be having that discussion at a later meeting when all 7 of us are there. Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Chair Buchema. So just a quick question. You're not looking at all for a motion at this time, even to refer from the committee to council, like just the subject matter?
Right now, we're just looking for a motion to receive the report. And then it will come up at a later meeting again. But Michael, if you want to add to that, feel free.
I was going to say that certainly there is the opportunity for any member of the committee to make out their own motion as well. So that's the recommendation from staff.
Yeah, that's fine, Councillor Patterson.
So for example, even the 3 alternatives will come back as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you, Chair Buchema. Yes, the report would come back in its entirety to council for consideration.
Good question. Okay, then I'm going to call for the question. All in favor of receiving this report? Oh. Okay, I see 2 hands. Oh, we were almost ready to go home here. Councillor Raven, why don't you start us off? Oh, I
I was
see
laughing at Councillor Ray. Sorry, Councillor Ray is the one that wants to talk.
I see a little hand above. Is that nothing above Councillor Raven's head there? Oh, that's Councillor Ray's. Okay. Councillor Ray.
Sorry about that. Maybe I should have just interrupted. Just generally speaking, when we receive something, there's no further action. so I was actually generally, I think Councillor Patterson's right. Generally, the committee makes a recommendation to council. Otherwise, it would have been my expectation that if we just received it, wouldn't come back. And, you know, as far as making a decision without Mayor Atchell, council actually makes the decision, but this committee should be making a recommendation to council unless, you know, unless I'm misunderstanding our general when we receive things.
Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you, Chair Bukuma. So the way that, you know, the committee of the whole interacts with council is that the committee of the whole would just make that recommendation to council, but the report would have to come back to council for council, for the body of council to receive it. As the committee of the whole doesn't have, you know, the authority of council to do or take an action.
So would a potential motion be that the committee refers the report to council for future consideration?
I would have been actually happy to make a motion that we actually recommend that council recommend staff sign on to the protocol. But if nobody else is willing to go there, then we can always make the motion that Mr. Dewar recommended.
And Councillor Leonard, I think it was you who made the motion, right? Yeah. Yeah, we can rescind that motion if you so desire, if Councillor Ray wants to put a different motion on the floor.
Sure,
Okay,
I'll rescind it.
okay. So Councillor Ray,
Counselor Ray, I thought, oh, sorry.
help us out if you need to, your staff. Yeah.
Quite briefly, and thank you, Chair Bukuma. It looks like the committee is interested in making a more formal recommendation to council. So I would recommend that the committee of the whole take that action here, and you know, save some time at the council table potentially.
Okay. So Councillor Ray, do you want to put a different motion on the floor?
Sure, and my apologies for being pedantic. I'll move that the committee recommend to council that council instruct staff to sign the town on to the protocol.
Okay, and we do not need a seconder discussion. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Tarikama. My sincere apologies for interrupting.
Not a
Just
problem.
a quick question for you. So if I just had questions specific to our obligations to being signatories. So for example, the commitment to us participating as leadership and staff in the anti-racism training, which I fully support. I'm just curious if I had questions around that. Is this the time to talk about it, or shall I wait until that comes back to council?
This would be the time, right? Yeah, this would be the time because we're about to vote
Okay.
to adopt the report or to adopt the protocol, right? Yeah,
Excellent.
Recommend.
yeah, recommend adoption.
Okay, thank you. So I was just curious, is there any further conversation? I'm just kind of looking to staff for us to have this conversation around what opportunities, because I did notice in the report that says many of these activities are ongoing efforts with the town of Smithers, with the exception of the anti-racism training. So I'm just curious if staff are looking for anything further from us, or if we just say that we're going to sign on, that becomes something that we all commit to doing, and we can expect to receive that training, both us as council and staff, in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Schroeder?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and to the question that was posed. What signing on to this protocol would do is, you know, nudge staff in the direction of beginning to implement some of these bigger bigger pieces around anti-racism work. Specifically, you know, working to align our policies and our actual organizational capacity to what is being requested in terms of delivery. So, you know, pieces around training, pieces around aligning our policies, these are things that would be introduced over time. And absolutely, these are things that, you know, we would look to share both internally within the organization at the leadership council level and, you know, at the frontline level as well.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Anyone else? Ms. LeBlanc, can I ask you just to read that motion one time for me and maybe for everyone?
That the committee of the whole recommend to council that council direct staff to sign on to the, get it right, the racism and hate protocol.
Thank you. I am going to be voting against this motion for two reasons. I still have some of those concerns I shared this evening, and I'm also concerned about staff capacity. I feel like, as Councillor Leonard mentioned, a lot of these things are already in place in the workplace, and I just feel like we're adding a whole new layer of complexity to the organization. So for those two reasons, I'm going to be a no vote. Councillor Leonard?
I'll be joining Councillor Buikema in that, and specifically for those reasons, I just think it's bureaucracy that that we don't need to take on.
Councillor Ray, I believe you're next.
Yeah, so I think, you know, if I'm recalling correctly, some of this training was on the way anyways. And like Mr. Schroeder said, this will maybe move the process in a direction, but it was coming anyways. And I think, you know, I appreciated the chance to raise my concerns, and with any process that's put in place, there is always some there is always some risk that it will be misused by people. Like I said, I know what it's like to be caught in one of those misunderstandings. So I want to acknowledge your concerns, but I think sometimes when if we're just kind of formalizing work we're already doing, and maybe there's a little bit of reporting if there is an incident in the organization, I think we need to show that leadership that we're willing to sign the town on. You know, I think we showed a lot of it through the whole situation with the Pride situation. But I think these are the kinds of things that you can show leadership on by a simple act of signing on to something. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. And Councillor Patterson, I think you were next.
Thank you, Chair Buikema. A question through to staff. Does it matter that I believe the recommendation is supposed to align with alternative one that was presented, that it specifically specifies the mayor as the signatory and actually includes the word response prior to racism and hate? Do you need that level of specificity?
Mr. Schroeder?
Thank you, Chair Buikema. The intention largely remains the same. We had identified the mayor as the signatory, but if council prefers, staff can absolutely through the CAO execute that that protocol. In terms of the specific language used, it's clearly linked to the report and topic that's being discussed here. So I don't believe that level of specificity is required.
And
Thanks for that
sorry to butt in, but I'm having a little bit of technology issues and didn't see the actual wording. So if the wording is the mayor, I'm okay with that as well.
Mr. Schroeder?
Thank you, Chair Buikema. If council wished, they could make a brief amendment to change the words direct staff to authorize the mayor to sign the response to racism and hate protocol.
Okay, and that meets with Councillor Ray's approval. Okay, anyone else? Okay, then I'm going to call for the vote. All in fit. Oh,
Councillor
that
Raven.
is, okay, Councillor Raven.
I love technology. This is fantastic. Sorry about that. No, but I just wanted to echo what Councillor Ray said is I really think that this is one of those times where we can take that leadership role and just really show that this is something everybody around the table takes seriously on a day-to-day basis, but this is something that just shows that we are willing to walk our talk. Also, I understand staff capacity as well, which is why I was grateful that there was no timeline. It's not like we're saying we have to sign on in the next 2 weeks, otherwise we're not going to make it. This is one of those things that will just get added to the queue and will come back when it comes back. So I fully support that we're recommending to council to sign.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Okay, I'm going to check to see there's no more yellow hands on that screen. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of the motion? Okay, opposed? Okay, and that carries with Councillor Leonard and Councillor Buikema opposed. Mr. Dewar?
3-3, right?
No, 4-2.
Oh, sorry.
2 there, and Councillor Elliott and Councillor Patterson.
Sorry about that. I missed it.
That's okay.
And maybe perhaps Councillor Buikema, I missed it as well. Sorry, Chair Buikema, that I missed it as well. We didn't need to vote on the amended motion. We just voted on it as is, correct? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, everyone. I think that brings us to the end of this evening's work. If I could get that motion to adjourn. Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Thank you, Councillor Raven and Councillor Ray, for joining us. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for supporting us attending.
Oh, God.